There are three types of problems you can have when you're dealing with decimals and division. The first is where the dividend has a decimal point, but the divisor does not. The first step is always going to be to take the decimal point from the dividend and move it straight up and put it in the quotient spot. Now we can begin dividing. 2 does not go into 1, but it does go into 11 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract. Gives me 1, and I bring down my 1. 2 goes into 11 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract, and I get a 1. Now normally if I do not end up with 0 here, you're used to putting it up as a remainder, but because we're dealing with decimals, we do not do the remainders and we do not do fractions. What we need to do is actually add a 0 to the end of our problem up here and bring down this 0. We're going to keep doing this until when we subtract our we're going to keep doing this until when we subtract we get a 0 for our answer. So I bring down this 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. And when I subtract, I get 0. The next type of problem we're going to deal with is where the dividend has no decimal point and the divisor does. Well, the rule with dividing in decimals is that you are never allowed to have a decimal point on the outside. In order to take care of the decimal point, what we're going to do is move it so that it comes after the last digit, which in this case is the 2. Now you can't just move something on the outside and have it be the exact same problem. So if we move something one place on the outside, we're going to have to move something one place on the inside as well so that it remains equal. Well, the decimal point in this case is right after the 10, that hidden decimal. I'm going to move it over one place, and I can't just leave this blank spot, so I'm going to add a 0. What that just told me is that 10 divided by 0.2 is exactly the same problem as 100 divided by 2. And now I can do my math. 2 does not go into 1, but it does go into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract. Bring down my 0. 2 does not go into 0. 0 times 2 is 0. And now I have a 0 at the bottom with nothing left to bring down. So 100 divided by 2 is 50. The last type of problem is where we have a decimal point both in the dividend and the divisor. This works exactly the same as if you just had a decimal point outside. I need to move my decimal point so that it's the end of my digits, which in this case is one place. And because I moved my decimal place one place on the outside, I also need to do that on the inside. So my new problem is 108 divided by 4. I'm going to bring up my decimal point. 4 goes into 2. 4 does not go into 1. It does go into 10 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2. And I bring down my 8. And 4 goes into 28 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. And when I subtract, I get 0, and there's nothing left to bring down. You might think, well, I could keep adding zeros, and you could, but 4 goes into 0 0 times, and I'm going to keep ending up adding 0 after 0 after 0, which doesn't change the answer to my problem, which is 27. Let's do one more problem with decimals both on the inside and the outside of the division problem. First step is to get rid of this decimal point on the outside. So I need to move it 2 places so that it's at the end of the last digit. Because I moved it 2 places on the outside, I move it 2 places on the inside, which puts it right here. And then I can move my decimal point up into the quotient. 12 does not go into 1, but it goes into 16 one time. 1 times 12 is 12. And subtract. Gives me 4. Bring down my 8. 12 goes into 48 4 times. 4 times 12 is 48. And I have a 0, but I still have a number to bring down. 6. 12 does not go into 6, so I'm going to put a 0. 0 times 12 is 0. Subtract. 6. I don't have a 0, so I need to add 1 up here and bring down again. 12 goes into 60 5 times, and 5 times 12 is 60, which gives me my final 0.